Let me read to you a passage from the 8th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 23 to 27. It's the Gospel for Tuesday of the 13th week of Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, "Then Jesus got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, 'Lord, save us, we are going to drown.' He replied, 'You of little faith, why are you so afraid?' Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, 'What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him.'" That's from Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 to 27. We are led to think of faith. You know, one of the most notable features of the modern age, and most would argue that it is the most notable feature, is the dominance of empirical science, together with its technological applications. In 1856, the Frenchman Jean-Marie Le Bris made the first powered flight by having his glider pulled by a horse on a beach. But who would have expected then anything of the massive travel by flight that characterizes modern life? We may ask a similar question about the invention of the telephone, the radio, and the electric light bulb. Science has transformed housework, the washing machine and the refrigerator. It has transformed industry, daily communications, everything. Instead of sitting on a horse, we are in cars with an array of gadgets in front. All this is a wonderful advance in what God commands in the book of Genesis: "Fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish and the sea." Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. But one result is that we have come to think that real knowledge is that which is scientific and technical. Something is real and certain if it can be verified empirically and put to practical use. Other forms of knowledge are at most problematic. Especially to be suspected is the acceptance of things on faith. Our culture imbues us with a condescending suspicion of this mode of knowing things. We're not consistent here because manifestly we act on faith continually. We accept the word of others in news bulletins, on information about train times, what the doctors tell us about health and medicine, what the scientists tell us of the galaxies, and in the numerous technical gadgets we use. But faith will not do, we tend to think, in matters beyond empirical testing, such as morals and religion. Even in religion, many prefer to rely on paths that purport to be scientific and say heavily psychological. The danger in this, at the very least, is that we can neglect the virtue of faith. We can decline in our capacity to believe. And this capacity or natural virtue is manifestly needed for ordinary life, let alone religious life. Yes, indeed, for as a matter of fact, faith in the word of those who know is basic to ordinary human life. It is a basic foundation of everyday knowledge. In countless societies, too, religion has pervaded culture, and the body of religious belief, however ill-defined, which informs cultures, is commonly handed down and accepted in faith. Broadly speaking, the members of any society and culture accept their religious beliefs on faith. And so it is in much of the rest of our human knowledge. Anyone who has done a doctorate at university knows how laborious it is to establish something new for oneself and to contribute to the body of existing knowledge in any particular discipline. In large measure, man knows what he knows on faith. How much more is this the case in revealed religion, and in particular the religion revealed by the incarnate Son of God, Jesus Christ. It is a religion of revealed mysteries: the one and triune God, the incarnation, the atonement, the outpouring of grace, the institution of the church as Christ's body. Man simply must believe the word of Jesus Christ if he is to know these ineffable things, if he is to act on them, and if he is to receive the blessings promised to those who believe. All of this brings us to our gospel that I read earlier from Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 to 27, which finds Jesus Christ asleep in the midst of the terrifying storm, and his disciples around him convinced that they are doomed. At their frantic rousing of him, our Lord had one thing to say to them: "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" There was nothing they could do with scientific and technical knowledge, of which, when it came to sailing, they had a good deal. It was beyond that. What they lacked was much more important. They lacked faith. Our Lord, of course, was not saying that if they had faith, they would be spared all danger and even death. Even were death itself to come, they still must have faith. Father Damien, the famous missionary of the lepers in Molokai, lay dying of leprosy in April 1889, and a priest confrere later wrote this of him. He wrote, "It was truly edifying to see him. He seemed so happy. The following day he received the Holy Viaticum. During the day he was bright and cheerful." Damien knew well that leprosy was overcoming him. "What I most admired him," the priest wrote, "was his admirable patience." Damien had death enclosing and engulfing him, but he was brimming with faith. Thus did he gain the victory, for he died in the arms of Christ his Lord. Yes, faith.